Hello best learners, this is Mustafa here at Learn with the Best, and today we're going to be discussing law number 31 of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, controlling the options by getting others to play with the cards that you deal. In this video, I'm going to define the law for you, and then we'll look at a story from the book about King Ivan the Terrible, and then we'll finish up by going into an analysis on the law. This is a law that is used against us regularly by people who may even be completely unaware that they're using it. This is one of the more powerful laws because although you may or may not choose to use it, you absolutely do need to recognize when it's being used on you. If you can recognize it, then it's easy to guard yourself against it. Here's the law. The best deceptions are the ones that seem to give the other person a choice. Your victims feel like they're in control, but they're actually your puppets. Give people options that come out in your favor no matter which option they choose. Force them to make choices between the lesser of two evils, both of which serve your purpose. Place them squarely between two horns of a dilemma. They are gored wherever they turn. Once upon a time, around 500 years ago, there was a great and terrible king of Russia, King Ivan IV. At the age of 23, he was gravely ill and laying on his deathbed. Throughout his reign, the Boyar clan were his greatest enemies in his aristocracy, and King Ivan needed their allegiance to ensure that his young son would be safe and able to rule when he came of age. And so the king asked the boyars to swear their allegiance to his son, but the Boyar clan refused, and the king realized that he had no power over this particular clan. The king miraculously recovered from his illness, but he never forgot that the boyars were out to destroy him. Several years later, many of the powerful boyars and even some of Ivan's closest friends defected to other countries, where they would strategize on how they could overthrow the king and gain control over Russia. And with enemies in all directions and the massive size of Russia, it was impossible to defend on all fronts. And even if King Ivan was able to win these battles, the aftermath would be a greatly divided country. So what is a wise and terrible king to do? King Ivan simply stepped down and fled the palace with all of his belongings and a small guard. He went to a remote part of Russia to live out his days in peace, or so that's what he wanted everyone to believe. Within a month of his departure, the country was falling into a deep ruin. There was no law and there was no order. There was looting and rioting breaking out all over the land, and a sort of terror gripped the nation. Finally, a letter arrived from the former king explaining that he could no longer tolerate the betrayals from the Boyar clan, and that he had decided that being king was simply not worth the trouble. The good citizens of Mother Russia seethed with anger, not towards the king, no, but towards the Boyar clan. A group of delegates representing the church, the nobility, and the people made a journey to Ivan's village and begged him to return to the throne. Ivan listened, but he would not change his mind. The delegates begged and pleaded for days and days until finally Ivan dealt his cards. He would return to the throne with complete 100% authoritative power, and as this new sort of dictator, the boyars would no longer pose a threat. Either this, or the delegates could leave and someone else could be king for all he cared. Either way, he was fine. Ivan was controlling the options. Now, the good citizens had to choose between civil war or having a powerful dictator as ruler of the entire country. Almost every sector of Russia wanted a strong ruler, and so they handed the throne over to King Ivan, all the while believing that it was their choice, when in reality, it was Ivan who dealt the cards that were being played with. By withdrawing and disappearing, Ivan controlled the options. The people acknowledged how things started falling apart without their king, and in turn, it made them love him even more, all the while growing in their anger toward the Boyar clan. there is a great quote from Machiavelli. The wounds that men inflict upon themselves of their own choosing are less painful than the wounds inflicted upon them by others. So think of this law as if it were the horns of a bull. You trap your target between both horns and let them choose if they're going to run towards the right or towards the left. And when they are gored, regardless of which direction they run, they will believe that it was of their own choosing. They will never see you as the master puppeteer. Now let's analyze this law and gain a greater understanding about the options that we truly have in front of us when faced with a dilemma. But before we do that, I want to shamelessly plug my course into the middle of this video, because that's what you're supposed to do as a YouTuber. If you want to transform yourself from a lamb to a lion, then check out my course pinned in the top comment below. I teach you the importance of time and how you can manage your time in order to achieve your dreams and your life purpose. Let's be honest here, the majority of the population are sheep, taking part in the 9-to-5 rat race of life, not enjoying their work and never fulfilling or even finding their life purpose. You go to work, you come home, you eat a pizza, you watch the newest TV show, and day by day, month by month, decade by decade, your life passes you by and you have never achieved your goals in life. So let me be your sensei. I will give you the tools that you need for success. But keep in mind, this is not a magic pill and it will require hard work on your part. You have to follow what I teach and you have to put in the work on yourself on a daily basis. So if you're interested, then again, check out my course pinned in the top comment below. Okay, back to the video. I remember being a kid and going through the public school system. Teachers would always say something to the effect of, "Hey kid, you got two choices. Either you go to college or you work at McDonald's," asking people if they'd like fries with that. You know, it never failed. It wasn't just one teacher that would drop this line. It was basically all of them. This is how society brainwashes the young into doing what society needs. If the child decides to go to college, then he's taking out student loans, gaining a questionable education, and going into a deep financial debt that will likely set in stone his entire future. If, on the other hand, in this scenario, the child decides not to go to college, then he's going to be stuck with a menial minimum wage job. Either way, you see, the child is playing with the cards that society is dealing, and either way, that child will be doing what society needs. And I'm not saying that this is necessarily a bad thing. This is, in fact, the right path for most people, because most people are sheep. Most people want the day-to-day routines of life. They prefer the mundane because thinking about anything outside of their comfort zone is terrifying. So what do we do then? Well, the first step is gaining the understanding that there aren't just those two options, right? Just because another human that is no more or less intelligent than us gives us two choices, that does not mean that we have to pick either of those two options. There is an option C, an option D, an option XYZ. We have a limitless number of paths that we can take in life, not just the ones that would be the most beneficial to society. And don't get me wrong here, we do absolutely have to operate within the realm that is available to us, and having society and government as a part of that realm are all things that are good for us. What I'm saying is that we can choose our own path within this realm. For example, you can choose the path of a digital nomad. Create an online business that provides you with a good source of income so that you can operate within society while also freeing your time to do the things that you actually want to do. Of course, it's not easy to just start up a business and gain time freedom. It takes a ton of hard work and effort. It's not for everyone, but for those of us who do want to put in the hard work, the rewards are waiting for us on the other side of that hard work. Okay, I think we should end the video here. If you like my YouTube content and you want to support the creation of more content, then please check out my Patreon link pinned in the top comment below. I upload new videos every Friday for my Patreon subscribers that go deeper into my life regarding the 48 laws. These videos are a bit more raw and untamed than my usual videos here on YouTube. And if you're a patron of mine already, then I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart, because it's people like you that truly make all of this even possible in the first place. I hope you enjoyed this animated video on Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Law number 31, control the options. Get others to play with the cards that you deal. And don't forget, there is now a huge backlog of videos on the 48 laws, so make sure you watch them all so you don't get left behind. Thanks, and I'll see you next time for Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power, Law number 32.